Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to episode 46 of the Mind and Muse Crafts podcast. I am your host, Caroline, and I am recording this on a Saturday morning, June the 20th. And it is probably about 11 o'clock in the morning because by the time I propose to do these things and actually sit down to get them done, a lot of time has gone by. But anyway, it hopefully won't be that long of an episode, so it'll be okay. It is Saturday, the day before Father's Day in this part of the world, and as I believe most of you, we are slowly returning to what is normal in this part of the world. Normal in the sense of we have shops open and we have doctors' offices open, and I think we're almost 100% open right now. The only thing I can really think of that has not opened is the airport closest to me. They had stopped receiving flights probably at the end of March and have not begun to operate yet. But for the most part, the rest is back to normal. Also, besides that airport that I mentioned, schools are taking a summer vacation right now, and the university has advised us that we will continue to work remotely for the upcoming semester. So, almost, and I really can't say if this is almost normal or not because, well, I have not been out of this house for 3 months, so I don't know what it's really like in the outside world. I judge the way it's like by the amount of cars that go by the road that's at the top of the hill next to my house, and more or less that. Things that I hear, but I haven't been back into it. So hopefully wherever you reside, things are maybe going back to normal for you. Hopefully you can return to some type of normality and are continuing, because there's nothing else we can do except move on with whatever this is going to bring us. So I hope you're taking care, and I am genuinely happy that you are here with me today. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back and trying to spend some time with me. If you are a new viewer, just stumped upon the podcast or because YouTube recommended it to you, or someone else might have mentioned it, you might have read about it somewhere, whatever your reason for stopping by this morning, thank you, and I hope that you enjoy the time that we're going to spend together. So, moving on with what is the crafty part of this podcast. I am majorly a crocheter, for those of you, if there's anybody new. So this is majorly a crochet podcast, and today it is all about crochet. 100% crochet. So first of all, you can see, if you have been with me for a while, that I am finally wearing the Taroko top. That top that I worked on for so long, but it has been a couple of months, and I have brought it back to this podcast on several episodes, showing you what the progress that I have made and sharing with you my feelings on the topic. So there's not a lot that I can tell you today. I will mention again that it is the Taroko top by Nomad Stitches, and it is a crochet colorwork design. You can look up Taroko top or Taroko sweater as a hashtag on. I really haven't tried any of other of the social platforms except for Instagram. I know they have a hashtag there, and I visit that frequently to see if anybody else has made the mistakes that I have made, or let's say the pattern modifications. And there are also several projects, maybe 16 or so projects on Ravelry. If you have a Ravelry account and you would like to go there to the Taroko top Under search, under your search tab, you will also find it. And it's always good to do that type of thing so that you can actually see what the end product is supposed to look like before you begin it, or as you advance with the project. Because, well, it is a intermediate project. I mean, it is color work. It was my first try at color work, but the idea is that now that I've tried it out a little bit, I realize how much I don't know. And it just touched home because I realized that in color work, that's what has happened to me. Yes, I was a bit adventurous. I don't think it is the best project as a first time color work adventurer. If it's your first experience with color work, it might not be the best projects because I do still have a lot of doubts, but it was not impossible. As you can see, I have completed it. And although it has flaws and it has mistakes, and the flaws and mistakes of a novice, it is complete and it is wearable. It is wearable. And I will try to put in some footage here, like a short, let's say, video clip. It's just that my house has so much stuff in it that it's really hard to find some place where I can make a video where you can focus on what I want to show you without looking at all the mess that is around me. But I'll try. I'll try to put in some. I'll try to put in a photo of me wearing the completed object, because I am you can see that I am in a different place podcasting this morning. This is not my craft room. This was Clarissa Bith's room before, when she used to live here. And I had to do some recordings for work this week. And I needed somewhere where there was nothing in the background to distract, because it was a video for schoolwork, for classroom studies, and you don't want distraction. You don't want the students being distracted by what's on the wall behind you. Although I have found a couple of viewers comment me on the things that are behind me in my craft room, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I am not there to hypnotize you into learning something, so it's okay for you to have a look around. It's kind of like what sharing is about. But anyway, for those videos I didn't want it, and so I prepared this corner to do some recording, and I just decided, well, since I'm here, I might as well. I had makeup on, and I combed my hair for the first time, and I don't know how many days I thought it was appropriate. Although I did not record yesterday, I left the corner of the room set up so that I could record today. So I am in a new corner, but of course that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the Taroko and my experience with color work. So I thought also, I mean, so that you could just focus on the color work, that it would be a good place to kind of chat together for a while. Although I know that it is kind of like you really can't see much of it. There, I lowered the screen a little bit to see, but you have seen parts of it, and so you can see that it's finished. These are my sleeves. This is what I was missing last week. I was missing finishing the sleeves, and I was missing finishing the hem, which is at the bottom. When I put the complete video, you'll see that. And so this here took me a while. One of them I had to do twice, because the instructions say that the color work should not be on the underarm, and I thought that this one was going to come out at the underarm, so I had skipped it. And then I realized that everybody that did the project had that one there, so I ripped it back and I redid it, and I like it much better there. I don't think I picked up here my stitches too well. When you break for the yoke to create the body, you obviously chain here, and then you work into one part of the chain to continue the body, and then you have to work in the other part of the chain to pick up the sleeve, and I just think that I did that messily. That is not a nice look. And it's on both sides, so for one thing I'll say both sides came out the same. But yes, I think it has something to do with just going into that one stitch of the chain. Yes, I'd have to look into how that could be avoided. At this point I could stitch it together, which I might, because I have enough room that I don't think if I stitch that together I'll be tight or anything. Notice that this is, I've hidden all of my ends, I've woven in all of the ends, and this was also steamed, and this has also been steamed, and after I steamed it, well, this top laid down flatly, and I believe the back even laid down flat enough because it was pretty big and there was a lot of room at the back. You can't really see it that well, but like I say, I'll try and put up a video that kind of shows a little better view of it, since I spent so much time of it. I mean, you should be wanting to see the final project. So this is made up in a 5mm crochet hook. You'll remember that I was using my well-loved Furl Odyssey in a 5mm, and that was for the main parts of it, the main color work. The lacy bits you were told to go down to a 4, and the ribbing you were told to go down to a 3.5. But I also did my ribbon in 4, and I'm very happy with it. With 3.5, it was looking like too pulled in for my liking, so I did it in a 4. And that's it. That is probably the last time you'll see this top on this podcast. I hope you enjoyed the ride with me. So if you'll remember on the previous podcast, I was showing you my I don't know if they're upcoming projects or things that are under my radar, I usually call them, because I don't always do them, but I do share them with you. But this one I completed. This is the graffiti beret, and this is an Inside Crochet magazine issue 124. And I did one of them in the, what did I do it? I did it in the small size as suggested by this. I did not use merino again. I used Red Heart. I'll check it. Do I have it here? No. Well, I think it's the same Red Heart with Love. This one, I believe I did it with, it's just gray. And I used it completely. And so mine is not too graffiti. Mine is not graffiti at all, because I did it in only a solid, mostly solid. I don't believe it looks a little tonal on screen, so maybe it looks solid to the common eye, but with the camera lens you can see that they're actually like different tones of gray. But there it is. My graffiti beret, that is not graffiti, and as I said, I did this one. It only has 2 sizes, I believe. It has a small and a large, or what you would call a small medium. and a large. I'm trying to see it, but I really can't see the sizing anywhere. But I'm pretty sure of it. So they use a chunky wool. So I held this yarn double. And that's why I used up the entire, what does that come with? It'll come with a little bit more than this because this one is a second colorway that I used, and it only has 230 yards because it's not a plain color like this. This is will have a little bit more to it. But I did use the complete skein of that gray because I hauled it double, trying to achieve the chunky gauge. And 6mm hook. There it is. I'm going to try it on for you. Why not? When I make things here that I'm not going to use, that would make sense. So there it is. It is not, the graffiti color that they have, but I think it's a nice beret, and I totally think if you're looking for projects for when the upcoming Christmas season or gifting season comes along, or if you need to make a gift for a birthday or such, then it works. This one works. But I was trying it on, in those days where you're at home in your house clothes and you've got no makeup on, and I tried it on and I think, this looks so big on me. I don't see that now. And actually it does look very pretty with this Taroko top. So I think I've got an outfit, ladies and gentlemen, for whenever I am able to travel again. So now I think it looks okay. But at the moment I found it large, and I said, I wonder what would happen if I went down a hook size. Because there's no medium and the large was too big. So I said, I wonder what would happen if I went down a hook size. Actually, this is the large. And I didn't want to do the small because I believe the small was for like children. So I wanted to head for a medium, and what I did was I tried it with another yarn. This is the Lemon Drop. And if you'll remember, I purchased this because this is a yarn that supposedly can be worked up for planned pooling. And I wanted to make a hat, actually, that was on the Red Heart site as a free pattern. But several times as I was working with it, I came upon this. This happened several times in the yarn, and so I got upset. And I decided that I wasn't going to deal with the yarn, and I just put it away. So when I saw this graffiti, this is probably some type of lightly variegated, but I thought, I wonder how that yarn would look up. I wonder if it would still pool. Of course it does. Or I wonder if it would look, but these colors are beautiful. I love those colors. So I would make this beret again if I found something like that. I like it a lot. And so I made this one. I'll put this one on the mannequin for you because I like this one too much. Although I should try it on so you can see the difference in size. Anyway, this one I worked up with. You can see it's significantly smaller because even the mannequin is having problems getting it on. Well, not getting it on, but just making it look like, So this is the beret. I used this lemon drop held double, just as I did the other one, because it was worsted, and so, but of course it's not as beret-ish because of the fact that it's like a smaller beret. So it was held double, but I only used a 5mm hook. And I honestly don't remember if I did the amount of stitches in the small or the amount of stitches in the large for this one. I'm sorry, I forgot to write that down. So you'd have to kind of like try that for yourself. See what works for you. I do a gauge swatch. Do a gauge swatch and see what works for you. But this is the other one. And so it does pull still. Enough to maybe bother somebody. It doesn't look graffiti like hers does because of the fact that it's probably, my guess is that the change in color is too standard, which is what makes it pull. You have a gray color that is this segment that is this long, a yellow segment this long, a white segment that is this long, and a darker gray segment that is this long, and that the length of those segments repeats and repeats and repeats throughout that, and that's what makes it very acceptable for programmed color work, programmed pooling or planned pooling, because of the fact that those changes in color occur on a regular basis. So that's that. I really don't think it looks that bad, and I think that they would make very nice gifts for the upcoming holiday season. If it's like you need a gift that is like a little bit more classy, then make it in wool. It will definitely look different. Okay? But just because we criticize patterns that come up in magazines a lot because they have a limited amount of space, so sometimes the editors, I guess, make the decisions of eliminating parts of the pattern that they think are not as necessary, and so therefore they don't realize what they're cutting out maybe. But on this one, it's complete because it's such a simple thing to do. There's nothing in it but double crochets, and it works up really quickly. I did this in a couple of hours, which is not normal for me, and I think the result is something nice that could be gifted. So yeah, that was my short, well, that was one of my short deviations from, well, this I had left over since I made it smaller because I used only a 5mm hook. I still couldn't get rid of it all. Of course, I could always rip that one back and make it as big as this one, because now that I look at it, it doesn't look too small. Maybe I'll do that. Because I do think that this size, I like it better. So I deviated using that, and then my daughter Clarissa Beth came and talked to me about the idea of celebrating is it from September to October, what is called National Hispanic Heritage Month. And she said, Mom, if I do that, would you be willing to write up some type of a design, a pattern for a design? And I said, sure. I think I could do that because I might be able to do something simple, like maybe a cushion, and we could write a word in Spanish on the cushion, and then on one side in English, on the other side in Spanish, or something that has to do with our typical Puerto Rican heritage would also be well. So as she was speaking to me, I immediately thought about it and immediately deviated from any work that I had that day and any patterns that I was working on that day. And I started thinking about designing and I started thinking about designing a corner-to-corner design. Because I figured, first I started out thinking, well, if I want to write a word, corner to corner seems, if I want to write out a word, it seems that corner to corner will not be that bad a choice. So I looked into it, and I looked into some of the people that I know that have a lot of tutorials up for corner to corner, and they suggested using a program called Stitch Fiddle. And I don't know how many of you are acquainted with that program or have ever used it, but I'm going to try and put up like a tutorial of the program, not a tutorial, but a run-through of showing you the different things that I saw in the program, how I think it could be used, and why I was so intrigued, and I'm still intrigued by it. Take a little break here and allow you, because I'm getting hot. It's getting hot with this wool and with this acrylic on my head. But anyway, I'll put that up for you so you can see why I'm intrigued with this program. So this is Stitch Fiddle. It can be free. There is a version of it that can be used for free at stitchfiddle.com. There is also an extended version which has other possibilities that you can pay for a small amount. I don't know if it's somewhere between $20 or $22 a year. So that's up to you to decide, but you can use a version of it for free. I believe the free one, I'm not sure if you can save your patterns, and I am not sure if you can share them. Because I immediately saw it and I immediately knew that this is something that I was going to be using for a while, so I decided to check out a year-round subscription. So when you come here, you have the option of creating a new chart for knitting, crochet, cross stitch, or other. Well, you know that I was going into the crochet version. For crochet, we can do corner to corner or simply do crochet with colors or color work without having it to be corner to corner. Tunisian crochet, freeform, well, you've got options here. Every one of those options I have not looked into, but I would guess that you have different possibilities. The one I've used is corner to corner, and when I go to corner, you can see that you can start a design from an empty chart, which is what I was doing when I was trying to create a chart that simply has a word in Spanish on one side and then the other side a word in English. You can create from a picture, which means that I can bring in a picture into this and it will create the corner to corner chart for me. Or we can do this by code. Now I'm just going to show you what happens when you work from empty. You need to choose what size you want your grid to be. Now, the size you want your grid to be obviously is going to determine the size of your final project. Now, when you bring in a picture or a photo that is already, or a drawing that is already in a picture extension like .jpg or .jpeg, then you don't have this option of controlling the size because the size is going to depend on the detail of your photo or your image. But when you create your own, like for example, if I were going to make maybe a cushion, then maybe, I don't know, maybe I want here to have 30 rows and 30 columns. It does not have to be square. It does allow you to enter a size as a rectangle. And if you want to go into more detail, like I don't know what size I want it, they do have a sizing calculator here where if you have done a swatch with the yarn that you want to work with and the size of the hook, that you want to work with, then you can enter in your swatch size here, and it will determine the size of your finished object. Or you could also, enter the amount of squares that you want to use in your project, and then it will kind of work backwards, telling you, well, what size your final object is going to be if you have that many blocks or squares. So I can foresee in the future this being totally useful, but for the first couple of projects that I tried, I simply chose the option of bringing in a design and editing it, because that is obviously the advantage, because I can bring it in, the program will give me a suggestion for the colors that I should use, and I can edit it. I can convert it to only 2 colors. I can recreate it, because sometimes we'll have too much detail, and so there are thousands of things. I mean, maybe not thousands, but there are many options here to work from. And getting to know this program, well, I foresee that takes some time. Okay, in the meantime, I'll just show you what would happen if I choose here a 30 by 30. Okay. Notice it counts up to 30 here on the side for your rows, and then you've got 30 again for your columns. And I could just start maybe somewhere in the middle with whatever color I wanted, and I could try and, like, let's say, write out a word. Just by tapping on each one of these, I could play with it and get too many colors. Oh, I think I made it too long. I switched to the white, and I can erase those colors. Oh, I liked it the way it was before. I obviously undo what I did before. And it's just the way it works. You pick whatever color you want, and you don't have to do it one by one. You can pull it also. And so I think it's got a lot of, I can see a lot of good use coming to this. As a matter of fact, if you go, for example, to the Make and Do crew, well, she has, I think it could be considered like a tutorial on how to work with this. I just want to show you the possibilities here. So let's suppose that I have this word written up and I am ready to create my cushion or whatever it is that I want to create. And I wanted to begin my work. They have got this fabulous progress tracker here, which if you tell it where you want to start, you could actually work out we could actually use this to work it out as I go along. I'm going from the bottom right all the way up to the top, and so as I move along, it's got this tracker that marks what stage I'm at, and it's made it so much easier for me to work. And it will just do that all the way up to the top. We can obviously make this smaller if I need to see more of it. And so once I reach the corner, it's going to tell me that I'm at a corner, and it goes the other way. So I found that to be fantastic, until I obviously discovered then that you could also have written instructions, where written instructions, once you have told it where you want to start, in what direction you want to go, etc., then we've got here the list of written instructions. So if I wanted to recreate this for you, for example, then there was like kind of no sweat. I could simply put those into an Excel program and into Word and pass them on to you, and you could recreate my corner to corner. So I found this to be lovely to work with up to now. It hasn't been difficult, and I think it is a great program to experiment with. Okay, Now, how did I use this program? I used this program to create, as I was showing you, a couple of patterns. And the one that I have been working on currently is this one. I am once again using this yarn that was gifted to me by Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet in a giveaway, one of her giveaways on her channel that I responded to, and I won this yarn art jeans, and it says fine yarn made in Turkey. It is 55% cotton and 45%, well, it's in Turkey, or it says pack, I guess. What is that? Acrylic? And you'll remember it here. This is what I have right now. When you're doing corner to corner, one of the things that is recommended is that you create these bobbins. And although a lot of people that I have seen create them on those metal clothespins, I don't use metal clothespins. I use wooden ones. And so I had these wooden ones that were about 4 inches long. I don't use the smaller ones, but these that were 4 inches long, and they lent themselves very, very appropriately to the project because I can wrap the yarn around it, and the idea is that you keep them attached to the different parts of your project, and it helps with yarn management. So this is what I've done up to now. Very few of you will see anything in this design unless you're Puerto Rican. Unless you're Puerto Rican, because this design is the beginning of what is known as the Taino Coqui. It is an indigenous, it is a recreation of an indigenous drawing of a small frog that lives on the island that we call Coqui because of the way that it chirps. Well, it's not a bird, so it shouldn't chirp. But whatever frog noises are called, because of the noises it makes, it sounds like a coqui. And I will try and get some footage at night, audio. Get some audio for the beginning of this episode where I get the kind of the coqui singing. So, a coqui is a very typical part of the Puerto Rican culture, and so this is what is kind of like let's say a hieroglyphic drawing, if you want, that were found on the indigenous caves of the island, and it is always reproduced and recreated on tons of artisan work, on tons of artisan artwork, and so I decided that I would recreate it in a corner to corner. So maybe you have to know what I'm trying to replicate here in order for it to look like anything to you. I'll see if I can show you an image. There you go. Tons of images on Google of that symbol that I am trying to recreate in corner to corner. Now, does it make sense to you? Part of our heritage then would be this coqui, and so I have recreated it onto my corner to corner using the stitch fiddle to help me out. I was able to recreate it, and I would say I'm probably more than halfway through, because I'm past the middle section. I am now decreasing, and I am on row 50, and it's a 40 rows and 40 columns sort of thing. So turned out to be a lot larger than what I wanted. It would be a very large cushion, but I could probably put it on this chair, which is what I was thinking ultimately of doing, putting it on this chair that I am working on, except for the fact that I think that the black that's here, I didn't test it before, so it might run its dye into the blue if it needed to be washed, and or if you rub against it as you would a cushion. So if I don't turn it into a cushion, then I'm thinking about turning it into a wall hanging, where I'll have lots of tassels or frills at the bottom and crochet at the top. Let's say like a pocket that I can put a probably the most typical thing would be a bamboo branch. Clean it up and dry it up and get a bamboo branch that I can put, and so then I can hang it onto the wall. But anyway, at any rate, once it's done, it will be free for anybody who wants to participate during the month of August and September in that celebration of National Hispanic Heritage Month. That's part of what Clarissabeth is planning for that monthly celebration. I am just going along for the ride. I looked into this. I don't think that I have as normal, the band for the black, or I might, but I don't know. Yes, I do. Talking bad about myself, and here it is. It is something that I found here on the island. It's called Mimosa, and it is yarn 62% cotton and 38% rayon, made in Mexico. 100 grams, 240 yards. 240 yards. So, whereas this one has in 100 grams, it would have 344. So, it's maybe thicker than this one, but you really can't tell that much. They're working well together, is what I mean. What I should have done is I should have tested it for the dye to see if the dye was going to run out of it, but I didn't. So, trying to work quite carefully with clean hands and not too sweaty so that I don't ruin it. Well, so there you go. That's what I'm going to talk about, or that was what I was going to talk about today. I am glad you came to join me. Hope you're as happy as I am because I finally finished this top that I have carried along the podcast for so long. Hope you are doing well. I hope you are taking care of yourself. And as always, not just because of this COVID crisis, but it's something that we all need, a lot of self-care. And we all know that sometimes crafting is one of the remedies when we need to just take some time for ourselves and to distance ourselves from what's happening in our everyday lives. And so take care of yourself until we meet again. Keep yourself safe. Keep yourself healthy. Keep smiling. And try to keep crafting. Bye for now.